morning. We're here at the Authors for Authors Conference, and Catherine Flanagan, Vice President of Communications for the Brevard Author Society. And with me right now is author John Catapano. Oh, very good. Sure, I want to make sure I got that right. You're a writer, editor, and you're also with the Florida Writers Association.
Yes, I'm a judge.
You're a judge. What does that entail?
During the year, I'm sent different entries in different genres that I've selected, and there's a criteria, and we go through a 10-part judging criteria on different aspects of the entry, the writing, dialogue, plot, the syntax, and we judge them on a scale. And then that is sent back to the Writers Association. Another judge looks at those entries, and then there's the Palm Awards around Halloween, or around Halloween every year.
At their convention?
Yes.
At their convention. They have a convention in the fall.
Yes.
All right. So tell me, when did you start writing? I
actually started writing in grammar school. I had a wonderful teacher in 3rd grade, Catherine Henderson, and she had paperback books all around the classroom. And the rule was you could take any book, but you had to write a 1-page
book report
for it. So that's where I really started reading a lot of science fiction, horror, classic fiction, and doing a lot of writing that way. Continued into high school. I worked on my college newspaper as an editor and a writer. Continued into my high school and then college. I was a cartoonist and a feature writer, and I wrote for the yearbook. I wrote for all kinds of publications on campus. And then when I got out and I started working in the entertainment industry, I wrote a lot of technical manuals because I was an engineer for 40 years. So I wrote technical manuals, and every once in a while I would write something on a hobby that I was interested in for a magazine that dealt with those hobbies.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really good. So, what exactly, John? What genre do you write in right now?
It's considered horror, but I really consider most of it to be supernatural mystery. So it's a mystery story. There's something to be solved, but a lot of the characters are either supernatural or have supernatural overtones.
Okay, so they wouldn't be a fantasy then?
No. Try to make it as real as possible.
Well, okay. So do you have a website, or are you on Twitter?
Actually, I have an author page on Facebook.
On Facebook.
John Catapano, author.
Okay, so this is where we can get a hold of you then if we want to look at you.
Yes.
Where are your books? Your books are on Smashwords?
Right. Smashwords.com is a digital format site. They publish about 4,000 independent books a week.
Oh, wow.
And if you just put in my name, it will give you all of the books that are available on their website.
Very good. And your Trick-or-Treating Tales is on Amazon. Does that have the only book on Amazon right now?
Yes, I did this with another author in our group. I belong to a group called Dark Alley.
Okay.
And we collaborated on this last fall. And he's published mostly on CreateSpace and Amazon.
Okay.
And our sales did very well. And actually, we sold out the physical run of the books, and we just did a short limited print for this show.
Oh, that's very good. Now, you have a book out called Clarence.
Yes.
And it's a particularly interesting book. Would you like to talk about that?
Well, Clarence, originally the story was part of an anthology about a carnival in the early 1930s in the Northeast. And the person who runs the carnival is called Dr. Sarcophagus.
Okay.
And this story, Clarence, is well seated within the Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos. And there's a fish boy, as you can see from the cover. There's a fish boy in the freak show. Well, some men show up one night, and they are interested in having the carnival go off of its usual route to a town on Halloween Eve and do a show. So Dr. Sarcophagus, they pay him with a bar of very unusual gold. So he's very suspicious about what's going on. So for almost the rest of the tour, he's trying to figure out why these people want the carnival there and what they're after. And so he's doing his investigations while other things are happening. And finally they arrive at the town, and all things come to a head on All Hallows Eve.
Okay, great. The interesting thing about this book is that you called it a flip book.
Right. After World War II, there were paper shortages.
Uh-huh.
And I remember as a child in the 50s, buying and reading paperback novels that had 2 different stories in them. They were called flip books. So you would get one book this way, and then when you finished it halfway through, you'd close the book and turn it over, and there'd be a whole nother story this way.
Oh, okay.
So there are 2 complete stories in this book. This one much shorter. It's a modern fairy tale called The Bombmaker and the Elves. And I just thought it was a unique way, because I had been approached to be part of an anthology of modern fairy tales that fell through. So I had this story completed, and I wanted to publish it somewhere. So I thought this was a reasonable place to do it.
Very good. It's a very, very interesting way of publishing books.
It's very old school, goes back more than half a century.
But it works, and that's the main thing. So do you write by outlines, or do you consider yourself a pantser?
I'm not sure what you mean by pantser.
Pantser is sort of a seated pants writer,
Oh,
or
okay.
so just sort of.
I would say no. In college, I had a lot of writing courses.
Okay.
I was doing 18 credits a semester, and in any one semester, I was probably in 3 different writing courses.
Okay.
So I kind of trained myself to write in my sleep. So I'd go to bed at the very end with a thought in my head. And when I woke up in the morning, I'd sit at a typewriter back then, because this was the 70s, and I would type out what I dreamed.
Oh, okay.
And so I would have almost complete scripts. We were doing advertising scripts, we were doing short films, all that kind of stuff. I would be able to get up in the morning and literally type out my homework just from what I remembered at night. When I work now, I have a concept. I'll sleep on it for 3 days to a week, and by the time I'm ready to set pen to paper, I still do write that way on legal pads. The entire story is pretty much in my head.
Wonderful.
Characters, dialogue, scenes, I see it like a movie, and I even edit it like a movie in my dreams. So it's, I would say 90% complete by the time I sit down and start writing it. Not that things won't change, not that different subplots might not come in, but it's pretty much a complete story. I know where it starts, I know where the middle is, and I know how it ends.
Very interesting, very, very interesting. So where do you get your ideas from?
Everywhere. It can happen in the shower, it can happen almost everywhere. I'm working on my first full-length novel that I actually did as a comic book in the 1990s, called Invasive Species. And that I got from a very small news article in the Orlando Sentinel, on a back page in the feature section one day. And I cut it out, put it on my bulletin board, and worked on it over about 3 months, came up with what I thought was a viable story. And it's been running around in my head, and it's been in a couple of different formats, written in a couple of different formats since 1995.
Okay, I noticed that you had it as a comic book, but it's out of print.
Yes, that was 2005 maybe. Okay. So I waited 10 years even to do it as a comic book. And I kind of describe a comic book because it's not complete. It was meant to be a miniseries, but I couldn't go beyond that point because of horrible problems with getting artists to actually draw. That's why I got out of comic books and went into prose. Basically, the 10 or 11 page comic book that is published, I have copies of it, of course, is the part of the James Bond movie before the credits.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of that teaser that sets up the initial movie.
I think they call them trailers too, don't they?
Well, trailers would be for a film. It's the part to entice you to go see it.
Oh, okay.
And the James Bond movies, especially the early ones, the Connery and the Roger Moore, there's an action sequence that happens before the titles even go on.
That's true, yes.
And it's kind of like a secondary little movie to
Some
kick everything off.
some of the British, like Midsummer Murders and some of the British things do that also. So what can we expect from you in the future?
Well, that I'm trying to get at least the majority, if not all of it, done by the end of the year.
Okay, great. Is there any information that you'd like to pass on to anyone else, any aspiring writers?
Find a place and a time every day to write, and just sit down and write. And the other thing I hear from a lot of first-time writers is they think they have to put, when they're writing, it has to be completely finished and in piece. Pardon me. No, write everything down, worry about cutting it down.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to?
I think that's it. I think
Okay.
I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me for this.
Here, thank you, and once again, you can reach him at on Facebook.
Or you can find the books at smashwords.com.
Smashwords.com. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.